Varric had spent years inside the grand archives of the Galactic Council, searching for forgotten knowledge. As a historian of the auxiliary race, his job was to uncover the past, to study the rise and fall of civilizations. But today, he had found something that should not exist. His hands trembled as he held the ancient data tablet. It was old, far older than any record he had ever seen. The screen flickered with faded words in the galactic standard language. But the meaning was clear. This was a restricted file, one that had been hidden for centuries. The title at the top sent a shiver down his spine. Designation: Humanity, the species that terrified the ancients. Varric frowned. The word humanity was unfamiliar. He had studied thousands of civilizations, yet he had never heard of this one. He checked the database, searching for any mention of humans, but the system returned nothing. His heart pounded. A species so feared that their very existence had been erased from history. This was impossible. He pressed a button to open the full file. Lines of text filled the screen. Report from the Ancient War Council. The species known as humanity is too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. Their adaptability is unmatched, their resilience unnatural. We have suffered great losses in our attempt to contain them. If left unchecked, they will dominate all. We, the firstborn races of the galaxy, must unite to ensure they are never seen again. Varric's breath caught. The ancients, the first great empires of the galaxy, had feared this species so much that they had worked together to erase them. The implications were terrifying. He continued reading. The file described a war fought thousands of years ago. The ancients had vast fleets, powerful weapons, and controlled most of the known galaxy. Yet, against this single species, humans, they struggled. Varric's fingers tightened around the tablet. The file did not describe humans as monsters or conquerors. Instead, it called them unstoppable. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest. Their technology was not the most advanced, but they refused to break. Every time they were pushed back, they returned stronger. Every time they lost, they learned. One passage stood out to him. They do not surrender. They do not accept defeat. Even when their worlds burn, they fight. Even when they should perish, they survive. We have crushed many species before, but humanity is different. Varric's mind raced. If this was true, then why had no one heard of them? What had happened to these humans? Had they been destroyed? Or were they still out there? A cold fear settled in his chest. He knew he had to tell the council. If humanity had survived, if they were returning, the galaxy needed to be ready. But as he turned to leave, a warning flashed on the tablet screen. Access restricted. Unauthorized VIUDUANGDETKTE. Varric's blood turned to ice. The archive's security systems had activated. He had triggered something, an old defense mechanism. Someone somewhere now knew he had seen this file. He had uncovered the truth. And someone did not want it to be known. Varric hurried through the dimly lit halls of the Grand Archive, his mind racing. The warning message still burned in his thoughts. Unauthorized viewing detected. Someone knew he had seen the file. Someone who did not want the truth about humanity to be uncovered. The auxiliary historian clutched the data tablet to his chest as he exited the archive. The council had to know. If there was even a chance that humans still existed, the galaxy needed to be prepared. But as he reached the transport station, he hesitated. Who could he trust? The Galactic Council was vast, filled with powerful rulers and scholars. But if the file had been erased from history, then that meant someone, perhaps the council itself, had hidden it on purpose. If he brought this information to the wrong person, he might disappear just like the records of humanity. A chill ran down his spine. He needed to be careful. The rumors begin. Far away, on a distant space station, Captain Rin of the Toval merchant fleet sat in a crowded bar, listening to a group of traders speak in hushed tones. "I swear, I saw it with my own eyes," one of them said, his scales glistening under the dim neon lights. A ship like nothing I've ever seen before. No markings, no transmissions, just watching us. Another trader, a furry Yeltsin, narrowed his eyes. Pirates. The first trader shook his head. No, pirates would attack. This ship just sat there in the void. And then, without a sound, it vanished. Rin leaned forward. What did it look like? The trader hesitated before speaking. It was old. Not rusted, not damaged. Just different. It had a design I've never seen in any known fleet. Rin frowned. He had heard similar stories before. Whispers of ghost ships, unidentified vessels appearing in deep space before vanishing like shadows. Most dismissed them as myths, the stories of drunken pilots or faulty scanners. But something about this trader's voice sounded real. A cold realization settled in Rin's mind. He had seen an old battle report once, buried in the Tovel archives, a war from long before his time, fought against an unknown enemy. The report had been incomplete, but he remembered a single word that appeared again and again. Humanity. The Yeltsin trader scoffed. Sounds like a sensor glitch to me. The first trader shook his head. No, there's more. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. A patrol fleet went missing near the edge of the frontier. No distress calls, no debris, just gone. The bar fell silent. The idea of an entire fleet vanishing without a trace was terrifying. Rin's stomach twisted. Something was happening. Something big. And if the old reports were true, the ghosts of the past had returned. Varric's decision. Back on the capital world, Varric sat alone in his quarters, staring at the data tablet. He had spent the last few hours digging deeper, searching for any trace of humanity outside the restricted files, and he had found nothing. It was as if the species had been wiped from existence. No records, no ruins, no survivors. It was impossible. No civilization vanished without a trace. There should have been something. Artifacts, lost colonies, DNA samples. But there was nothing. Unless humanity had done it themselves. Varric felt his breath hitch. What if humans had not been destroyed? What if they had left? What if they had gone into hiding, watching from the darkness? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. If humans had survived, they had spent centuries in the shadows, waiting, watching, preparing. A soft chime pulled him from his thoughts. His door display blinked with an incoming message. Unknown sender. Varric hesitated before opening it. A single line of text appeared on the screen. You are asking the wrong questions, historian. His blood turned cold. Someone knew what he was searching for. Someone was watching him. And that meant one thing. The ghosts were real. Varric stared at the message on his screen, his heart pounding. You are asking the wrong questions, historian. Who had sent it? How did they know what he was searching for? He swallowed hard, his mind racing. This was no ordinary message. It was a warning. For a moment, he considered stopping. Whatever this secret was, it was dangerous. The ancients had erased all records of humanity for a reason. But then he remembered the words in the old file. If left unchecked, they will dominate all. If humans had survived, if they were still out there, the galaxy needed to know. Taking a deep breath, he accessed the restricted file again. He needed more information, something that explained what had really happened in the past. The war, the reason humans were feared, and why they had vanished. The screen flickered before displaying a heavily damaged report. Parts of the text were missing, but what remained sent chills down his spine. The war that should not have happened. The report spoke of a time when the ancients ruled the stars. The first great empires, the Xelari, the Vornath, the Zilkar, had expanded across the galaxy, believing themselves to be the most powerful beings to ever exist. Then they encountered humans. At first, the ancients ignored them. Humanity was just another primitive species, confined to a single planet. But humans did something no other species had ever done. They advanced too quickly. While most species took thousands of years to develop space travel, humanity rushed forward in centuries. Their technology evolved at an unnatural speed. They reverse-engineered alien technology with ease. They adapted, learned, and improved faster than anyone could have imagined. And they were not peaceful. The first conflict between humans and the ancients was an accident, a misunderstanding between an exploration fleet and an alien patrol. A battle broke out, and the humans, though outnumbered and technologically inferior, won. The council dismissed it as luck, but it happened again and again. Each time, the humans adapted. They studied enemy weapons, developed countermeasures, and became stronger after every battle. The council grew uneasy. Humanity was too unpredictable, too relentless. So the ancients made a decision. They would not allow this species to rise. The eradication campaign. The report described a brutal campaign. The greatest empires of the time united against one single species. The ancients believed it would be easy. After all, they had crushed countless civilizations before. They were wrong. Humanity fought like no enemy they had ever faced. They did not break under pressure. They did not surrender. When their cities burned, they rebuilt. When their fleets were destroyed, they built new ones, faster, deadlier, smarter. For every human world that fell, another warship was launched. The war dragged on for centuries. The ancients threw everything they had at humanity: massive fleets, superweapons, entire armies. But the humans only grew stronger. Then something terrifying happened. The ancients began losing. The humans pushed back, one battle at a time. They stole enemy technology, improved it, and used it against their enemies. The war had changed them. They were no longer just survivors. They had become something else. Hunters. The ancients, once rulers of the stars, found themselves retreating. Their once invincible fleets crumbled. Their great cities fell. The council realized the truth too late. Humanity could not be stopped. So the ancients made one final decision. They did not try to defeat the humans anymore. Instead, they erased them. They wiped all records of humanity from history. They destroyed every piece of evidence that humans had ever existed. And then, in one last desperate act, they sent a final fleet to Earth. And after that, humanity disappeared. Varric's horror. Varric felt his hands shaking as he read the last words of the file. The council had not won the war. They had simply erased it. And now, whispers of ghost ships, fleets disappearing without a trace, strange vessels watching from the shadows. It all made sense. Humanity was still out there. And if they had survived for so long, watching, waiting, then they were coming back. Varric closed his tablet, his chest tightening with fear. He had uncovered the truth. But now he had a terrible feeling. Someone was watching him. And they did not want him to tell the galaxy what he had just learned. Varric sat in his quarters, staring at his tablet. His hands were cold, his mind racing. He had uncovered the truth, a truth buried for centuries. The war against humanity, the fear of their return, and the way the ancients had erased them from history. But now, the whispers in the galaxy, the sightings of unknown ships, it all made sense. Humanity had survived, and they were coming back. A sudden noise snapped him out of his thoughts. His door console beeped. Someone was outside. Varric's breath caught. Had the council discovered him? Slowly, he moved toward the door. His fingers hesitated over the control panel before pressing it. The door slid open with a soft hiss. A hooded figure stepped inside. Varric took a step back, his pulse quickening. "Who are you?" The figure lowered their hood, revealing the face of an older alien, a member of the Zilkar race. Their red eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "You need to leave. Now." Varric's mouth went dry. "Why?" The Zilkar stepped closer, their voice barely above a whisper. "Because you have seen the truth, and there are those who will not let you live after knowing it." Varric swallowed. The council. The Zilkar shook their head. Not just them. There are others. Those who have been waiting. Watching. A chill ran through Varric's body. You mean? Before he could finish, a second warning beep sounded from the door console. Someone else was outside. The Zilkar's eyes widened. Too late. The lights in the room flickered. The security systems went offline. Varric barely had time to react before the Zilkar grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a hidden exit. If you want to live, come with me. Now. Varric didn't argue. He ran. A meeting in the dark. Far from the capital world, deep in the void of space, a lone patrol ship drifted near the neutral zone, an unclaimed region where no empire held power. Commander Doran of the Vorneth Empire sat in his command chair, reviewing reports. His crew had detected strange energy signals in this sector. Unregistered ships had been seen. Doran was a veteran. He had seen many battles, fought many wars, but what he saw now on the scanner made no sense. Sir, his officer said, her voice unsteady, we have a contact. Doran leaned forward. Identify. The officer swallowed. Unknown. No registration. No transmissions. Doran frowned. Put it on the main screen. The view screen flickered to life. A ship floated in the darkness. It was massive, sleek, and made of a material the scanners could not identify. There were no markings, no insignias. It looked ancient, yet advanced beyond anything Doran had ever seen. And then, it moved. Slowly, it turned to face them. A cold feeling settled in Doran's chest. It was watching them. Sir, the officer's voice shook. It's scanning us. Doran clenched his fists. Send a transmission. Identify ourselves. The communications officer sent the signal. They waited. No response. Doran's instincts screamed at him. This was not normal. Sir, the officer yelled. The ship just disappeared from our scanners. Doran's eyes widened. What? Before anyone could react, the ship reappeared. But now, it was right in front of them. Alarms blared across the bridge. They'd just crossed an impossible distance in seconds. An officer shouted, That's not possible. Doran's mind raced. No known species had technology like this. This was something else, something from the past. Then, for the first time, the mysterious ship sent a message. A single transmission appeared on the screen. The words were in Galactic Standard. We are watching. Doran felt a chill run down his spine. He knew, deep in his soul, what he was looking at. Humanity had returned. Varric's escape. On the capital world, Varric ran through the underground tunnels, following the Zilkar who had saved him. He gasped for breath. Who are you? The Zilkar didn't stop running. Someone who knows the truth. And someone who does not want you to die before you tell the galaxy what you have found. They reached a hidden hangar. A small ship sat waiting. The Zilkar gestured toward it. Get in. Now. Varric hesitated. Where are we going? The Zilkar's red eyes glowed faintly. To the edge of known space. To see what the ancients feared the most. Varric's heart pounded. He had no choice. As the ship's engines roared to life, he realized something terrifying. The truth was not just a story from the past. Humanity was out there. And soon, the entire galaxy would know. Varric gripped the seat tightly as the small ship launched into the sky. The sudden acceleration pressed him against the seat, his heart pounding. The capital world shrank below them, its massive city lights becoming mere specks. Beside him, the mysterious Zilkar pilot worked quickly, adjusting controls with practiced ease. The ship trembled as it passed through the upper atmosphere. And then, silence. They were in space. Varric exhaled, his mind still racing. He turned to his rescuer. Who are you? And why did you save me? The Zilkar kept his gaze on the controls. My name is Rethan. I used to be part of the Council's security forces. He glanced at Varric. Until I discovered the same truth you did. Varric felt a chill. You knew about humanity. Rethan nodded. I found traces of the war long ago, but when I asked questions, I became a target. The Council does not allow anyone to dig too deep. His red eyes darkened. You were about to be silenced. Varric swallowed. He had been lucky. If Rethan hadn't come, he would have disappeared, just like humanity's history. What now? Varric asked. Rethan activated the ship's faster-than-light drive. Now we go to the edge of known space to find proof. Varric clenched his fists. He had spent his life studying history. Now he was living it. The silence before the storm. Far away, in the unclaimed sector of space, Commander Doran's ship floated in eerie silence. The mysterious vessel, the human vessel, had vanished again, disappearing as suddenly as it had appeared. Doran's crew was in shock. "Sir," an officer finally spoke, "what do we do?" Doran stared at the screen. His instincts told him one thing. This was only the beginning. "Send a report to the High Command," Doran ordered. "Tell them, we are not alone." The officer hesitated. Will they believe us? Doran's grip tightened. No, they wouldn't. The Council had spent centuries erasing humanity from history. They would not accept the truth so easily. "We send the report anyway," Doran said. "And then, we prepare. Because if the humans had returned, they were not here to talk. They were watching, waiting, deciding." At the edge of known space, Varric's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, entering a dark and silent region of space. There were no planets, no stations, only endless void. Rethan adjusted the ship's scanners. "This place is known as the Dead Zone. No one comes here." Varric frowned. "Why?" Rethan's voice was grim. "Because ships that enter this region don't come back." A shiver ran through Varric. He looked out the viewport. There was nothing but darkness. No signs of life. No stars close by. Just emptiness. Then, suddenly, a signal. A soft beep echoed through the cockpit. Rethan's eyes widened. Something is out there. Varric leaned forward. "Can you locate it?" Rethan nodded and adjusted the scanners. The ship's computer worked for a moment, then displayed a result. Varric's breath caught. It was a structure, massive, hidden in the dark. "A station," he whispered. "No." Rethan's voice was quiet. "A ship." Varric's pulse raced. A ship of that size, floating in the void. It had to be ancient. And if it was still active, then the ghosts of the past were no longer ghosts. Rethan guided their ship closer, his fingers tight on the controls. "If this is what I think it is." Varric completed the sentence for him. "Then we just found the proof. The proof that humanity had never been defeated. The proof that they had only been waiting." Varric stared out of the viewport, his breath shallow. The massive structure floated silently in the dark, hidden in the void for who knew how long. Even at a distance, he could tell this was not an ordinary ship. It was ancient, yet still intact. The design was unlike anything in the known galaxy. It had a strange, sleek shape, as if built for both war and survival. "This is it," Rethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "A human warship." Varric felt a chill. How is it still here? How has no one found it? Rethan kept his gaze locked on the scanners. "The Council avoids this region. They say it's cursed." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Now we know why." Varric swallowed hard. If this ship had survived the ancient war, then that meant humanity had survived too. "Are we going inside?" he asked. Rethan hesitated, then nodded. "We didn't come all this way just to stare at it." He guided their small ship closer. As they approached, Varric could see faint markings on the hull, strange symbols, words in a language long forgotten by the galaxy. English. Varric didn't know the language, but he recognized it from old erased files. It was the language of humans. As they neared what looked like a docking bay, Rethan activated the landing gear. "Hang on. I'm going to try to connect." For a moment, nothing happened. The ancient warship remained silent, dark. Then, a light flickered on. A deep rumble vibrated through the air as something inside the ship activated. Varric's pulse quickened. "It's waking up." Rethan tightened his grip on the controls. "Let's hope it doesn't see us as enemies." The docking bay doors opened. A silent invitation. Varric exhaled. "We're going in." A step into the past. As the small ship settled inside the docking bay, the silence was overwhelming. Varric and Rethan stepped onto the metal floor, their footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. The air was thin but breathable. The walls were covered in strange panels, lights flickering weakly. The ship had been asleep for centuries, but it was not dead. "This place," Varric whispered. "It's still functioning." Rethan nodded. "And something tells me we aren't alone." They moved carefully through the dark corridors, their flashlights cutting through the shadows. Strange symbols and markings covered the walls, words left behind by the long-forgotten humans. Then suddenly, a sound, a faint hum, like machinery coming back to life. Varric's heart pounded. "Did you hear that?" Rethan drew his weapon. "Stay close." They turned a corner and froze. A large door at the end of the corridor had begun to open, steam hissing from its edges. Beyond it, dim lights flickered on, revealing a figure. Varric's breath caught. It was humanoid tall, standing in the darkness. It didn't move, didn't speak, but something about it sent shivers down his spine. Then, as the lights grew brighter, Varric realized the truth. It was not an alien. It was a human. The awakening. The figure slowly lifted its head. Its suit was ancient, worn from time, but still intact. Its face was hidden behind a dark visor. Then, in a deep mechanical voice, it spoke. "Who are you?" Varric couldn't move, couldn't think. This was impossible. Rethan, always quick to act, took a cautious step forward. "We are explorers. Historians." His voice was steady, but Varric could hear the tension beneath it. "We seek the truth." The figure was silent for a moment. Then, a new sound echoed through the ship. A voice, deep, artificial, but filled with authority. "Identity we suonfirnid. Humanity pirotosiola reactivated." Varric's stomach dropped. The ship had recognized them. Lights flickered on across the entire corridor. The hum of power returned to life. The warship was waking up. The human figure turned toward a control panel, pressing something with a gloved hand. A screen lit up, displaying data Varric could not understand. Then the human turned back to them. "You have made a mistake coming here." Varric's breath caught. "Why?" The human's voice was cold. "Because now they will come." Rethan tensed. "Who?" For the first time, the human moved forward, stepping into the full light. His suit was battle-worn, his armor scratched from past wars. His visor lifted, revealing tired but sharp human eyes. "The ones who try to erase us." Asterisk, asterisk. Varric's blood ran cold. The Council, the Empires, the entire galaxy. They had spent centuries covering up humanity's existence. And now, with this ship awakening, they would come to finish what they started. Varric's heart pounded as he stared into the human's eyes. There was no doubt now. Humanity had survived. And now, with the ship waking up, the galaxy would know. Rethan tightened his grip on his weapon, but he did not raise it. "Who are you?" The human studied them for a moment before speaking. "Commander Alex Varin, Earth Defense Fleet." His voice was calm, but there was something cold beneath it. Varric felt a shiver. This was not a man of peace. This was a warrior. Rethan exchanged a glance with Varric. "How are you still alive?" "This ship, it should be thousands of years old." Varin did not answer immediately. He turned to the flickering console and pressed a few buttons. Data flashed across the screen in a language neither Varric nor Rethan could read. Finally, Varen spoke. "We were put into stasis, a last measure when the war was lost." Varric's eyes widened. The war against the ancients. Varen's jaw tightened. "Yes." He turned to them, his gaze sharp. "Tell me, what year is it?" Varric hesitated, then gave the current standard galactic date. Varen's expression did not change, but something in his posture stiffened. He exhaled slowly. "We slept for too long." Rethan crossed his arms. "The galaxy believes humanity is gone. That you were wiped out." Varen let out a bitter laugh. "That's what they wanted, isn't it?" Varric felt a lump in his throat. The history books had lied. The Council had buried the truth. And now, the forgotten enemy had returned. The warning. Alarms suddenly blared through the ancient warship. Red lights flashed along the walls. The ship was detecting something. Varen turned sharply to the console. His fingers flew over the controls, his face darkening as he read the data. "We have a problem," he muttered. Varric's stomach twisted. What kind of problem? Varen looked at them, his expression grim. "They found us." Rethan's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Varen turned the screen toward them. A real-time scan of space appeared. Several ships were approaching. Fast. Varric's breath caught. The ships belonged to the Council's fleet. "They must have tracked our ship when we entered the dead zone," Rethan said, his voice tight. Varen clenched his fists. "And now they're coming to make sure no one leaves alive." The warship's systems continued waking up. Weapons were still offline. Shields were weak. It was powerful, but after centuries of sleep, it was not ready for a fight. Varen's mind worked quickly. "We can't take them in a direct battle." "Not yet." Varric felt a chill. "Then what do we do?" Varen's eyes gleamed with something dangerous. "We make them remember why they feared us." The ghosts of war. The Council fleet arrived, their sleek ships surrounding the ancient warship like predators circling prey. On the Council's command ship, Admiral Velker watched the old vessel on his screen. His face was cold. So the ghosts of humanity still remain. A communication officer turned to him. "Sir, orders." Velker's gaze darkened. No transmissions. No warnings. He leaned forward. "Destroy them." The Council ships charged their weapons. But before they could fire, the warship moved. Lights across its hull blazed to life. Engines that had been silent for centuries roared. And then, in an instant, it vanished. Velker's eyes widened. What? Where did it go? The sensors scrambled, trying to track it. The ship had moved at impossible speed, faster than anything in modern fleets. Then, it reappeared. Behind them. Before anyone could react, the warship's cannons flared to life. A message to the galaxy. The answer was simple. Humanity had been built for war. Velker gritted his teeth. He had been raised to believe humans were a mistake of history, a species too dangerous to be allowed to exist. And now, he understood why. His ship's systems flickered. A transmission was being forced onto their channels. The screen filled with static. Then, a face appeared. Commander Varen. His voice was calm, but his words sent a chill through every officer in the fleet. You tried to erase us. You buried our history. You feared our return. The warship powered its main cannons, locking onto Velker's ship. Now, the galaxy will remember. The screen went black. Velker barely had time to react before the warship fired one final shot, and his ship was engulfed in flames. The future has changed. Far away, on the capital world of the Council, the leaders watched in horror as the battle report came in. A deep silence filled the grand chamber. The Council had ruled for centuries, unchallenged. But now, an old enemy had returned. They will come for us, one of the members whispered. Another clenched their fists. We must prepare. And in the shadows of space, across the many empires that had forgotten them, whispers spread. The lost species had returned. And this time, humanity was not alone. The warship drifted in the darkness of space, its ancient hull now fully awake, glowing with the power it once held. Inside, Varric and Rethin stood in silent awe. They had seen the impossible. They had witnessed the return of humanity. Commander Varen stood at the command console, his eyes fixed on the fading wreckage of the Council fleet. His face was unreadable, but there was a fire in his gaze, a fire that had been waiting for centuries. "This was only the beginning," he murmured. Varric swallowed hard. "The Council will send more, stronger fleets. They won't stop until they erase you for good." Varen nodded. "I know." He turned to face them, his posture firm. "Which is why we must act first." Rethin crossed his arms. "And how exactly do we do that?" "The Council controls the galaxy. They have power, resources, everything." Varen smiled, but there was no humor in it. "They may control the galaxy, but they do not control the truth." He tapped a button on the console. A holographic display appeared, showing data Varric and Rethin couldn't fully understand. Then, a transmission request. Varric's eyes widened. "You're going to send a message." Varen nodded. "Not just any message." He took a deep breath. "The truth. A message to the stars. Across the galaxy, thousands of worlds, rich core planets, mining colonies, distant frontier stations, suddenly saw the same broadcast. Their screens flickered, their devices overridden by a signal more ancient than their own civilizations. Then a face appeared. Commander Alex Varen, a human. His voice was calm, steady, but filled with a weight that sent chills through all who listened. "To the people of the galaxy, you have been lied to." On the Council Capitol, the High Command stood frozen as the message played across their grand halls. "You were told that humanity was erased, that we were a mistake of history, a danger to existence itself." The broadcast spread, reaching planets where stories of the ancient war had been whispered in secret. On backwater worlds, people leaned in, their hearts pounding. "They erased our history. They silenced our name. They hunted us to extinction." In military stations, soldiers hesitated, their hands hovering over their weapons as the truth shattered the illusion they had always believed. But they failed. Gasps rippled through the galaxy. "We have returned." The Council's fear. The Council chamber was in chaos. The broadcast could not be stopped. The truth was spreading like wildfire, reaching systems they had spent centuries controlling. "They're waking up the old alliances," one official shouted. "The people will question everything." Another panicked. Admiral Velker, barely alive from the battle, struggled to speak through the emergency broadcast. "We must destroy them now, before the people start to believe them." The Supreme Chancellor, an elder of the ruling class, slammed his fist against the table. No. Silence filled the room. He stood slowly, his face pale, but his eyes sharp with understanding. "It is already too late." The other officials looked at him in horror. The moment they heard his voice, the Chancellor whispered. They remembered. He turned to the massive display, watching as messages flooded in from across the galaxy. Some were filled with fear, others with hope. And then the worst message arrived. A single transmission from a distant fleet, a fleet that should not have existed. "The lost colonies stand with Earth." The Chancellor's hands trembled. The exiled humans, those who had fled during the war, they had survived too. And now, they were answering the call. The war begins again. On the warship, Varen's expression was unreadable as he saw the response to his message. Rethin leaned against the console, exhaling. "I can't believe it. There are more of you out there." Varen nodded, more than the Council ever feared. Varric's voice was quiet. "What happens now?" Varen looked at him, his expression hardened by centuries of waiting. "We take back what was stolen." Across the galaxy, The first human fleets, hidden, scattered, waiting for the right time, were moving. The lost colonies, the survivors of the old war, the children of humanity who had spent generations hiding. They were coming home. The Council's control over the galaxy was breaking. The truth had shattered the silence. And now, the most feared species in history was no longer just a ghost of the past. They were the future. The galaxy trembled. The Council had ruled for centuries, shaping history as they pleased, erasing humanity from existence. But now, the lost species had returned. Across thousands of worlds, fleets gathered. Ships that had remained hidden for generations powered up their engines. Weapons that had not fired in centuries were prepared for battle. The final war had begun. The Council's last stand. The Council's grand fleet assembled above their capital world. Admiral Velker, his body still weak from his last defeat, stood before the command deck, staring at the holographic map. Red markers filled the screen. Human ships. Too many. Far too many. This cannot be possible, one officer whispered. Where did they come from? Velker's hands trembled as he spoke. From the shadows, from the worlds we abandoned, from the places we thought were dead. The Supreme Chancellor's voice came over the transmission. Hold the line. The galaxy still fears us. Velker wanted to believe that. He truly did. But when he looked at the approaching human fleet, he realized something. They were not afraid anymore. The battle for the future. The war began with fire. The Council's ships opened fire first, unleashing waves of energy blasts. Shields flared. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. But the humans did not falter. Varen's warship led the charge, moving faster than any Council ship could track. It weaved through enemy lines, striking with deadly precision. Rethen and Varric watched in awe from the bridge. This was not war. This was vengeance. Varen's voice was calm. Target their command ships. Cut off their leaders. From the hidden colonies, human war fleets emerged from hyperspace. Old battle stations powered up. Ancient weapons long thought lost roared back to life. The galaxy had forgotten humanity's strength. Now they would remember. The fall of the Council. On the Council's homeworld, panic spread. Citizens watched in horror as explosions filled the skies. For the first time in centuries, they were the ones being invaded. In the Grand Chamber, the Supreme Chancellor sat in silence. His advisors screamed, his guards rushed to escape. But he knew the truth. There was nowhere to run. The doors burst open. A squad of human soldiers entered, their weapons glowing. At their lead was Varen. The Chancellor stared at him, the last surviving remnant of the species they had tried to erase. Do you even remember why? The Chancellor whispered. Why we feared you. Varen met his gaze. Yes. He raised his weapon. And with that, the Council fell. A new beginning. The war was over. Across the galaxy, the Council's forces surrendered. Planets that had once lived in fear of humanity now welcomed them as allies. The last survivors of the old war returned home. Varric and Rethen stood on the bridge of the warship, looking out at the stars. What happens now? Varric asked. Varen stood beside them, watching the lights of the liberated worlds. Now, he took a deep breath. Now we rebuild. For centuries, the galaxy had feared one species above all. Now humanity had returned, and this time they would not be forgotten. The age of humanity had begun.